Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot and really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Sunday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe. At Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia. The Orange rack up almost 650 yards and hold Wagner to an even 50 total. Cruising to a 59-0 win. And it was like watching a video game, but still fun. So they'll move to 5-0. They did move to 5-0 for the first time since 1987. You'll hear from us, and we'll hear from you in fan feedback. Some recently breaking news that you'll already know probably by the time you listen to this. But Syracuse is moved up in the coaches poll to 21st. I saw this morning, first thing. Then actually moved up in the AP poll, or in the AP poll at 22nd, as Florida State and Pitt drop out after their losses. So looks like if not much is to change here, that NC State's going to come into the Dome with against a ranked Syracuse. I mean, so it'll be two ranked teams. And I think that I read that Matt Park, I think I put it on the socials. He was on Twitter. It's going to be the first time since 2001 where we're playing in the Dome we're ranked and we're playing a ranked opponent. So making history, all kinds of history, actually happening as Tucker passes a few more guys on the all-time rushing
almost
list.
got hurt trying to expand
And
on
we'll
that
talk
history.
about that, and we'll talk about all of those things as we listen first to what Coach had to say after the game.
Obviously, extremely excited about the start. Again, a little disappointed in the penalties, 8 for 75 yards. We really wanted to have a clean game. I thought we got close to it in a lot of areas, although there was some mistakes out there. Was happy that we had some fans. I can't wait to see us after this break when we come back and we have NC State in the Dome. Really looking forward to having it wild and crazy again, because we do need our 12th man if we're going to continue this run in the second half.
Coach, last season, it was a bye week that was later in the year. Now it's more earlier this season, midway through. Why is that so important with a tough slate coming up after the bye week?
You know, at first I didn't at the beginning, I didn't really think it was in a great position for us, but based off the injuries and the things that have happened, I think it couldn't come at a better time, and we need it. There's things we need to work on. There's things we need to rest. Injuries we need to rest, because the back half is going to be extremely difficult. And it's obviously going to start with NC State and the Wolfpack, after the break. It's extremely logical. If you watch most of the games like this, you normally you make halftime adjustments at halftime, and you normally give that starting offense one more series, and then you get everybody out of the game. So they had one more series, and when they got their one more series, we pulled everybody out of the game.
So there was no conversation about pulling them earlier?
Not with me.
Coach, what can you say about LeQuint's future at the running back position?
Hey, he's a New Jersey guy, Gatorade Player of the Year. Another one of those guys from New York and New Jersey that we recruit and that we think is, good, regardless of how many stars they get. And it looks like he's going to be really good. We just have to wait and see. He gave you guys a little taste of it today, but I think he has a bright future, but I could be wrong. I just think that Garrett came in and worked extremely hard. He worked with, his trainer in the off season. He worked with Coach Beck. He worked with Coach Anai. He worked with our receivers. And if you just watch all the stuff they did over the summertime, you felt like they were working cohesively enough that they might have a day like this. It's crazy, because I didn't realize that he had went 17 for 17 until about 10 minutes before I walked up here. And then the first thing I thought about is how cool is that for him? But then I also thought about for you to go 17 for 17, that also means that no receiver dropped the ball. And how cool is that for the wide receivers? And how that means he also didn't get hurried. He had time. How cool is that for the offensive line? So I think that all that stuff, considering that it was a good offensive performance, and I'm excited for all the people in that group.
Are you pleased with your performance today? And if so, why?
I would say I'm pleased. It's been a couple weeks, but guys came out today, played hard, and we definitely came out with a win.
For Sean or Garrett, you guys' thoughts on staying out there into the second half and just kind of that decision and your reaction to it?
Not gonna lie, we were trying to go for some records, so we weren't able to get that though.
Yeah, coach came up, and then OC came up to us, and he wanted us to go for that record, but a little injury happened, but we're all good.
All right, real quick before we get started, we do have new sponsorship that will be starting soon, and there's a little perk to this thing. And so Joe, you don't even know this because I haven't really mentioned it much. I think
News to me.
Well, because I didn't want to mention anything until I knew more information. So,
gosh,
it's another betting platform, okay, with a little bit of a twist, and I have designed or have in the works to design. It's been about a week and a half now. It's kind of taken way longer than I would have liked it to design a new. I have these variations of the auto that we've done throughout the years that we kind of just morph one really good design into a couple different designs and things like that. So anyways, it has to do with that, but there'll be more information on that. Hopefully by the next time we do a show, we'll be doing the live read stuff and things like that. It's going to be, it seems to be like it's going to be really cool. So anyways, there's that. There is also, we are going to try to go live we do our audio live for fan feedback segments, and we're going to try to do go live on YouTube too during those segments as well. So you can either listen if you want to get on the show, you'll have to listen on the Spotify Live app, but you can watch live if you'd like on YouTube. So as soon as I figure out how to do that, which I'm sure I'll get some hints. If anybody has hints or good ways to do this, please DM me. I am an open mind to all kinds of platforms or whatever's going to be easiest, because that's a lot to do without another guy in here with me. So the things I've tried are a little bit more complicated than I like through OBS Studio and things like that. So anyways, so that's what we can look forward to. And during this bye week, I'm going to try to button a lot of that stuff up. So anyways, to the montage. Good start for the game, for the Orange in the game yesterday. 8 penalties for 75 yards, as we heard Coach mention. Still got to clean up there. And, if you're going to pick on something, that's been the thing to really pick on through the first 2 games in this game as well. Coach, happy to see some fans in there, he says, but, and like we've mentioned, we're going to need a real 12th man. I don't see how we don't get to 40 with a ranked NC State coming in to play a ranked Syracuse. So we've got a couple weeks to work on that. And look, I watched NC State Clemson last night, as I'm sure many of you did. These are tough teams coming up. Tough teams. And they play hard. And Syracuse is going to need to be ready, which brings us to Coach's second point, or the second question he was asked about. Or the first question, no, it was the second question, but it's our first question, that he was asked about during the presser, which is the bye week. It's coming almost right at halfway through the year, which is excellent. We kind of, we always speculate the bye. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? We were a little skeptical of it coming after the 5th game, going into the 6th. Coach says he was too, but like he said, I think it's good to be able to, work on some things, get some rest, nurse some injuries, as well as have an extra week to prepare for NC State, who's no slouch and can play football. So those are all good things, Joe. Getting looks like, the Owies, starting to pile up a little bit, and to be able to kind of get some rest and prepare and button some other things up, like the penalties and things like that. This bye is going to be a good opportunity at a good time, I think. So
yeah, well, I mean, this was kind of like just a scrimmage, I mean, Brent Axe kind of alluded to it a little bit, and I'll give him a little bit of credit. This is probably a team that we shouldn't even schedule, because I mean, that was just bad. I mean, when you really look at the stats and you break the stuff down, the penalties really didn't matter. I understand getting some confidence and some experience with your younger guys, but in doing that, there were certain situations where I mean, we lucked out because Bergeron went down. Sean Tucker went down. Those aren't things that we need again going against D1AA right before the bye week and everything like that. I mean, Bergeron went down, and I was like, all right, he's done. Take his helmet. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
Like, I didn't expect them to come out in the second half. Now, I do understand, to Dino's point, what he was kind of talking about. I get that a little bit, but when you're at the point at halftime where where you and the other coach mutually come to an agreement of like, hey, let's not do anything crazy. Wagner just stopped throwing the ball, right? And they were like, let's go to 10-minute quarters. Just get out of here. I mean, when it gets to that point, then to me personally, you don't bring your starters out there in the second half.
No,
but I know that that's normal protocol.
Well, that's what we talked about. That's what we talked about.
Do with them also trying to, this is normal protocol, and with doing this protocol, we're going to break a record with Sean Tucker, and that's kind of what the mentality was. Probably going to be a no harm, no foul. Thought he was going to break another long one, get another touchdown, pad his stats, and then call it a day, right? And then that happened. So, again, we played a little bit with fire because, again, you talk about normal protocol against a team like that, but that we weren't even in a normal protocol situation. I don't even know. I'm sure we're not the first team, then the first time that this has ever happened, but I've never remember seeing a game where they just start, 10-minute quarters.
Yeah. Well, we talked, normal protocol, quote unquote, is to put the starters in for a series in the second half. And we talked about that in the last game, but that was without seeing what we were going to see. And when I saw what I saw, I didn't see a point in it. And coach is going to defend his decision because he's coach and he makes the calls, and he's going to defend that decision. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but when you watch it live and you're like, what are we doing? Why is he still in there? It's a little bit frustrating as a fan. Now, I think that's his third time needing help off the field this season. So, thankfully it's been nothing serious, and we move on. But I feel like you kind of escaped one maybe there for that. So that will button up that point. That brings us to LaQuint Allen, longest rush in Syracuse football history without a touchdown, which was previously held by James Mungro. I think it was 86 yards. But this 90-yard, and you saw him just run out of steam, man. He was so close.
It's a long sprint.
That's a long sprint, especially when you start the way he started.
Breaking tackles and
yeah. So, cool. Another record. He'll be put into the record books there. And
we threw a perfect game.
Yes, that's the next point. You always won ahead.
Sorry,
you listen to the montage. You listen to the montage. Next time you do that,
talking about records.
I know we're getting there. We're getting there.
We had two running backs that in one play had more offense than Wagner in the whole game.
Yeah, there's numerous plays where we had more offense in one play than Wagner had the whole game. So there's numerous plays, I think that. And
then when you look at the passing, there was two different players that had more passing yards than they had the whole game in just one catch. We had three receivers that actually had more yards than they did for a whole game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, back to LaQuint. He looks like a solid running back, a solid backup to Sean Tucker to me. And coach didn't fluff him too much, but he looks solid to me. And it was before Wagner. So I'm not like basing this off of what I seen yesterday.
I mean, the way that he was cutting, the way he was using his hands with stiff arms and stuff like that. I mean, he's got all the intangibles there. Then you look at him and you're like, oh man, like he's so small. But then you're like, oh, he's a true freshman. So,
right.
I mean, if he adds, obviously some footwork stuff that they always work on in the off season and stuff like that, but also some weight, some strength to the already, the techniques and everything that he has as a running back and the vision and everything. I mean, he's got it. You can see it. I mean, Babers is right there where the way that he said it, I mean, he said, I could be wrong, but he kind of sounded like, that was kind of like a fat chance. Right. So
yeah,
definitely one of the guys that honestly, I mean, I thought coming into it that he would be a decent change of pace. They've got him involved in some plays, right? They had like that quarterback reverse throw type thing and stuff like that. But I can definitely see him as somebody who gets sprinkled in there for a little bit of a change of pace when Sean Tucker isn't working or is tired in the future of this season.
Yeah, it's good. He's a good little change of pace. I mean, if
get him the ball out in the open, yeah,
exactly. Garrett, obviously the working over the off season has paid off. We've noticed it. He's had a couple rough games against some tougher opponents past couple weeks, but what he did yesterday, I don't care who it's against, and this is to Coach's point, 17 for 17 for 238 yards. That's another school record, a record previously held by Donovan McNabb in 1996 when he went 16 for 19 against Army. So 17 for 17, 100% completion rate is a record. It's never happened. Garrett did it with 17 for 17. Doesn't matter who we were playing against. We've played scrubs before, and that's never happened. So, really cool. And Garrett Schrader goes in the record book. So he looks good, obviously, but a total team effort with the 17 for 17. Like Coach mentioned, no pressure. Garrett was very comfortable in the pocket, delivering those throws and with great accuracy, and as well as the offensive line, the receivers did their part. They didn't drop any balls. Everybody caught everything. That is a whole core unit, offensive core unit, like accomplishment. Even though Garrett Schrader's name's going to go down on there, that is the offense coming together for that record there. It's pretty awesome.
That's not easy to do no matter what the opponent
exactly.
is,
right? That's my point. So really good. Like I said, it looked like a video game. And as Joe mentioned, to that point, they shortened the third and fourth quarters. I was like, man, this is going by really quick. And then
I said the same thing, dude. I was fast forwarding it, and all of a sudden I looked and I was like, got through the commercial and I was like 9:53. I'm like, where did the last 5 minutes go? I had to go back and rewind.
Yes.
And then I heard it and I was like, oh, okay, why are we doing that? I mean, I get it, but
I didn't hear it announced, but the second half starts and me and my wife are just shooting shit and hang out watching the game. And I felt like no time at all went by. And I'm looking up and it's like 8 something left. I'm like, what the hell happened? And I didn't find out till the fourth quarter, when the fourth quarter started, what they were doing. So anyways, I was confused for a minute.
If you would have rewound it, then you would have heard it. But yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't. See, here's the thing.
Oh, okay.
I was on an iPad. And we don't usually hang out inside, especially when the weather's decent. But my outside TV, I can't like sling or whatever you call it, like screen mirror or whatever. So, anyways, I didn't want to screw it up. It was already
AirDrop?
Acting funny. Yeah, it doesn't have AirDrop. That's what it is. Yeah, it doesn't have that. So, anyways,
how about Amari Hatcher, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, good. It's good. Amari Hatcher,
great play.
Devon Cooper
that we were talking about that was coming up the depth chart, and he went out there, and I would have loved to have seen him with a different view because I thought that was good in the NFL on Sundays, and that's a tough catch.
Right. Yeah, it was, and
another guy to look forward to. I think.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of them, and I love it. I think it's awesome.
I mean, remember the LaQuint Allen run? Remember he was running out of he was running. You remember Amari Hatcher just came out of nowhere, like
he
ran that amount too, right?
Yeah, he did.
He came out of nowhere to try to get.
He followed him all the way down there.
Well, yeah, but he caught up to him.
Yeah, that too.
He caught up to everybody. It was like, wow, that guy is fast. We need to get him on the field.
Yeah, and he got a shout out from Garrett Schrader during the player presser too. So
yep.
getting his name called there is pretty cool. Sean Tucker was pleased with his performance. We heard that early. Of course, that tweet's going to come out eventually, and we knew he would be pleased, but he's pleased. I thought it was funny. I just included that last little bite in there when they were asked about being in the second half, and Garrett Trader just says, "I'm gonna be honest, we were trying to break some records." I think it's hilarious, but
it definitely is. But I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things where, people they're probably going to use that and parse words to go against like what Babers was saying. You know what I mean? But when you're winning, when you're winning 49-0, and the protocol is that the first team comes out in the second half and does one. I mean, if you're the offensive coordinator, what are you going to do to try to motivate these guys that are up 49-0? Right? Hey, you got this record. Let's get in there. Let's knock this out.
Yeah, we have one more series to get this done.
But it wasn't about the record.
Well,
it was just a motivation point to the players. Like, hey, by the way, you're this close to this record. Let's get out and do this in this drive that you guys are going to go out and do, right? So, and for the players, it's obviously going to be about the record at that point because they already proved everything they had to prove by beating them 49-0.
Yes. So that wraps that up. I mean, it's
sneaky player of the game. Who is it?
Sneaky player of the game?
So the last couple of weeks, there was like Kevon Darton who stepped up on defense, and then last week Anwar Sparrow.
Yeah.
He stepped up, and he played a good game last night too. But the one to me,
Lowry,
7 tackles, leads the team, 3.5 tackles for losses. That guy was everywhere.
Yeah, and you still had guys like Braylon Oliver was in there. I mean, we saw a little Malcolm Falk and
Joe Biddy Jr. got a sack.
He had a tackle. So
Steve Linton had 2 sacks. Malcolm Falk had half a sack. His tackle was half a sack.
Or his tackle was a half a sack. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's good seeing those guys get burned, man, and get out there and kind of just obviously.
Caden Bailey
get the feel.
With 3 tackles.
Yeah, I didn't even see Caden
freshman.
Bailey.
Huh?
Well, isn't what's his name? Braylon Oliver? Isn't he a true freshman too? Hold on a second. Is he?
No, Braylon Oliver was a transfer from Louisville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Caden Bailey, he's a true freshman. His uncle's Champ Bailey, dad Boss Bailey from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even seeing him getting out there, I mean, who knows? It might be his only game he plays. I don't know if he's going to get redshirted or not, but he looks pretty good too. So, yeah, that's like about the only thing that I enjoy about these games. I'd like to have been able to see Carlos Del Rio Wilson get a little bit more burn, see what they can do, and maybe open it up a little bit. But at that point, man, we were just beating them so bad, and it was more or less just let's just run the ball, wind the clock down, and get out of here without injuries.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, I wanted to see him passing more too, but
it's kind of like scored 2 more touchdowns, and if Wagner would have kept passing, there would have been more interceptions, like Deuce Chestnuts for his pick 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Wagner was down however much, and they were still just running the ball because they didn't want to make it worse.
Right. So, anyways, okay, that's gonna do it for us. It's time to hear from you.
It's time to hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
All right, you guys know what to do at the end of every game. You leave your thoughts on said game, and we talk about them. And, look, here's the thing. I know it was a game that we expected to win, a game that you may not have learned a lot from. Like I said, I want to see a Harlem Globetrotter type win, and I think we did. The offense was very basic, but it was effective, and it looked ridiculous.
It did,
right? So okay, that's a Harlem. That's a Harlem Globetrotter win.
Like rookie on Madden.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's even hard to do to hold a team to 50 yards on rookie and Madden. I mean, maybe a Wagner, right? Okay, fair enough. So, anyways, I think the final tally, I have a screenshot here, but ESPN says 631 total yards for Syracuse. The screenshot I grabbed from the game is 637 total yards, but that's a lot to 50. That's a lot to 50. So at the end of the day,
26 first downs to 4.
Yeah.
And like, this is the crazy thing. In time of possession, we had 25-49. They had 24-11.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a drive past 8 minutes, past 8 plays, and we scored every drive except for the last drive at the end of the first half and the last drive at the end of the game, and it's only because we didn't try.
Right. But I mean, we knelt down when we could have scored.
We could have called the
too.
timeout and
Yeah.
at least kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
At the end of the first half. In the second half, it was the same. We just conceded to running out the clock.
Right. At No Blanchard 44 on Twitter. Joe, I hope you got some pulled up on Facebook. That's a no.
Of course I do.
Screen just went blank. Starters should have been on the sideline after halftime. Not much to talk about, so I'll pose a question. Is Louisville the worst team in the Atlantic this year? And, well, statistically, yes, they are. They are. They haven't won a conference game yet. And looking back at that win, doesn't seem like it was as good of a win as we might have thought at the time when we won. But, you know, it was we handled them very, very easily. And also, it looked like, I don't think Cunningham came back in at some point in the game yesterday. So that doesn't help their cause either. But, I mean, it was Boston College, right? That's who they played? Boston College? Wasn't?
Yep.
Yeah. So
they won. Boston College beat them. Yeah.
Right. And that's, yeah. I mean, yeah. So Noah, yeah, they're legit the worst team in the Atlantic. And guess who's on the other side? Worst in the Coastal, and that's UVA. So a couple of the wins that we have are two of the worst teams in the ACC. And that's where it's going to be tough for me to shift gears into NC State without being extremely nervous. So we get to watch NC State play one more time before Syracuse has to play them. But like I said last night, I just feel like NC State is playing really, really, really strong football. I know they lost with 20 to 30 against Clemson last night, but the first half of that game was tough football, and they are an excellent football team right now, as well as, you know, even Clemson looking better and better every
Clemson's
week
defensive
too.
line
so it looks really
brutal.
And if you really want to get down to it, what is NC State? Did they drop out of the AP, Joe? Did you notice? I mean,
No.
they wouldn't have dropped out, but where did they fall to?
14, I want to say.
14. Okay. Well, they're the second worst team statistically in the Atlantic right now, based off of records, because the only conference game they played was against Clemson and they lost. So, you know, watch them next week. I mean, that's all I can say. Who do they play next week? Let's see if this will bring it
Florida
up.
State.
Yeah, Florida State. So that'll be good. Florida State.
Don't know where, but I mean,
it's at NC State.
Some of those NC State guys got beat up. I mean, there was some injuries. There was definitely a super physical game. You could hear the popping of the pads and everything like that. So next week's going to be a difficult game for them, especially considering Florida State losing to Wake Forest. So, you know, they're going to want to come back and get redemption.
That was a good game too, as well. I thought that was a good game.
Yeah, they were good games. NC State was in it for a little while, but just got to a point where they needed to make some plays, and the defensive line for Clemson just didn't allow Leary to do that, and that's really what it came down to. So super scary. Adam Williams, Facebook. Next 6 games are going to be brutal, just to go along what we were talking about. Time to show what we're made of. There's something about this team that feels special.
Well, we're going to know how special after the next game. October 15th, NC State. We're going to know. We're going to know a whole lot the next 2 games. A whole lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me get a couple more in. So I'm picking this one because his last name is Raleigh, and that's where I live. So Dave Raleigh. I liked everything I saw.
That's biased. That's biased.
These guys play hard and have talent. Oh, I don't want to hear about bias when it comes to picking.
Oh, boy. Here we go. All right.
The coaches need to help them stop the penalties, and the coaches need to understand that there's a time and a place to sit starters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when you talk about traditionally, this is what we do, and you look at the scoreboard and shortened quarters, I think you need to call an audible on some of that stuff.
Right there with you.
I'm totally fine with the whole first half. I really am. I mean, why not? You know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and it's easy for us to question. And none of us are mad about it because no one did get hurt. But if someone had gotten hurt, that's what this show would be about today, is that Sean Tucker is out for the season because Dino decided to get a little greedy and play him at the start of the third when we've already shortened the quarter by 5 minutes. So, and that would be a legit gripe. That is not what happened, though. And we can talk about what maybe could have been. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And, I think it's easy to say that type of stuff in hindsight.
Oh, yeah.
100%. So,
can I get one more in here?
Go ahead.
All right. So this is a good one. Actually, I'm going to get two more real quick. Yeah. Zach Shea.
Our boy Zach. Does he have the top fan badge or what?
He does not.
Zach!
He does not. I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's through I don't know. Can we please stay healthy on the D-line? Glad we came in and took care of business. We should see the number 25 next to our name for NC State. Make it happen, Nate Mink, you dork.
Yeah, well, he got his wish. Obviously, that was probably last night, and Zach getting his wish there, and we're even, like you said, Joe, we're even better than that. So it's excellent. It's exciting again. You know, it's just I don't want the top 25 revolving door problem where you enter into your next game ranked and then you exit that game unranked. You know what I'm saying? Like the short-lived ranking thing is,
I mean, we got to play a couple more games for that. I believe, like you said, I mean, it's one of those things. I don't know where we're going to move after this week with everything that happens during our bye, but I would like to think that it's not going to knock us out of the top 25 just because we don't play. But if we lose to NC State, then we'll probably get knocked out. Now, if we beat NC State, we'll move up into the teens, and then losing to Clemson won't knock us out.
We'll keep us there, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then it comes down to the next couple ones, right? I mean, Pittsburgh lost to Georgia Tech yesterday. They looked really not great at all. And then
people
again,
have
Notre
those
Dame,
games, man. I mean,
Notre Dame's been getting better, so we know that we're going to be able to compete with these teams. We've competed with these teams with lesser talent in previous seasons. It's just, getting through, winning at the end of the game and doing what you need to do at the end of the game to win games. But then also, like I said, and I'll always bring it up because that's going to be the main focus all the way through, but bringing it into November and finishing through November.
Yeah, and the November bug, like you mentioned, statistically speaking, not exactly our greatest month of football.
No. So I got one more, and this is one that the only reason I want to bring it up is it's a good comment, but it brings something up that we hadn't talked about yet. But
perfect. That's why we do this. Okay.
Okay, so we got to 5-0 and appeared to escape with one other injury on the defense. The first team offense shouldn't have seen the field in the second half hour. The targeting on Hannah was probably the worst call I've seen, and now he misses the first half of the next game.
We talked about this at the preview, and just saying if we can get out of there with no injuries and not have anybody get a targeting call to where they would be having to sit the bench and ride the pine for the first half of the next game, that would be great. Now, Rob Hannah, I don't think it's going to affect us that much. I mean, it's just the facts of it. But
no, I mean, he plays special teams.
Yeah, I know. I get it. But, the call itself is questionable. Coach mentioned it in the presser. And when you look at it, there's a whole lot of things moving and going on there. And I think with what's been happening lately, especially in the NFL and things, I think these calls are going to tighten up. And if you don't think that things like that in the professional leagues don't trickle down into college football, then I think that's crazy. It absolutely does. And we saw what's happened with Tua, and NASCAR has its own issues with head injuries right now. And I think just sports in general, those types of things are going to get tightened up. And
yeah.
I don't know what else to say about it.
With me, again, it just comes down to clarity, right? Because when you're doing certain things, right? Because I'm telling you right now, against, what was it, Purdue? Or was it Virginia? It was against Virginia,
right? There was one in each, wasn't there?
No, I'm saying when Trevor Pena fumbled on the kickoff. It was against Virginia, right?
That was Purdue. No, it was Virginia. That was the week we had 4 turnovers, yeah.
Yeah. That guy that hit him.
Speared him
in his back.
Yeah.
Now, and he had his head and crown down. Now, that didn't matter for some reason because what? Because he wasn't targeting his head because they happened not to clash heads.
Well, the rule is to protect the defender. Both of them. The rule is to protect both parties involved. So if you are on defense and you lower the crown of your helmet into someone's back like that, first of all, that's a targeting call, and I agree. But if you're putting yourself in danger, they're gonna sit you to teach you a lesson that you can't play like that. You could get hurt. You could hurt someone else. The rule is set in place for both parties.
Right, but where I have the issue is that, okay, I get it when somebody hits somebody's helmet, but it seems like it's only called when it's helmet to helmet, because a lot of times the offensive player ends up changing levels after the other person has
I understand.
gone helmet, right? You're trying to tell me that if the defender does it but doesn't hit the helmet, then it doesn't matter. But you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like if the guy lowers his helmet, and whether it's his damn leg, his stomach, his back, it still should be called. And that's just kind of where my focus is, because now you're going to talk about offensive players attempting to lower their heads or get put in position when a player is coming in with their helmet down to get hit in the helmet to get that call, right? Like, I mean, I just feel like there's so many things there that, it should be point blank, cut and dry. If you put your helmet down and you come in like the crown of your helmet is a damn weapon, I don't care if it's into your back or if it's into your helmet, that should be the same call. Well,
I would tend to agree with you. And I think that it is supposed to be called, by the way, regardless. It's not just supposed to be a helmet-to-helmet hit. The targeting call is lowering the crown of the helmet. I don't care. It doesn't matter where it lands on the body. I think there was one in the... Was it the Clemson game? I think it was. the Clemson game where someone was ejected for targeting, and it wasn't a helmet-to-helmet, but he lowered the crown. I think it went into someone's chest or something like that.
Yeah, it was one of the Clemson's defensive backs. That was one of the storylines that Clemson had a couple of freshmen out there playing corner.
Yeah, and so that one there is a case where what I'm talking about, where they ejected that kid because he's a danger to himself, right?
Right,
so,
and that's a good call.
Right, and I think that the rule is clear. The problem is that it's not always being called the same, and that's my
issue. Is you're literally sprinting down on kickoff coverage, and you're coming in, and you lower your helmet, and you put it right into someone's back, and like, no shit, they're gonna fumble.
Yeah, and here's the other right when you bend them backwards like that. But here's the thing:
break his back at the same damn time.
We're reaching the era where these college athletes didn't learn the way even we learned it in Pop Warner, because that's what we were told in Pop Warner. Like, I specifically remember being told to use the crown of my helmet, when you're running with the ball and when you're tackling. So I think we're reaching the era now where that's not being taught anymore. So it's not a bad habit, because when this first started, it was just a bad habit, right?
Right.
And it's also because you're trying to... Here's my problem. You're trying to lower your shoulder into somebody, and then if your helmet happens to hit too because they move, if you're a defensive player and you're trying to hit a moving target by lowering your shoulder and your helmet hits them, and then you get called for targeting, it's like, that sucks. And then we've seen plenty of those. Right, so
that's just what it is. Just your head's got to be up. You shouldn't be looking at the ground. You can't launch yourself helmet first. Like, that's just how they teach it now, and that's how it's got to be.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, it's just kind of natural instinct to lower the boom like that. It's a natural football move. You know what I mean? as far as
I mean,
I
I do know what you mean, but I mean, I came up to a situation like I didn't think that was smart at all. Like, I mean, I'd had my coaches that would call me names and stuff like that because I wasn't trying to go helmet to helmet 1-on-1 in a high school because it's practice, and in high school in a game like that's not what I'm going to do. And in the game, you're going to try to make somebody miss you, right?
We used to get high fives for marks on our helmet from coaches.
Yeah, no.
I mean, if you could,
I tried to play smarter, not harder.
Yeah, well,
and going helmet to helmet in practice just didn't seem to me like it's just you get the ball, get up, and you have to go right through them. Why?
I understand. I think it was
because in the game I'm going to do a spin move or I'm going to try to juke you, or stiff arm you. So why do I have to do this?
Right.
To prove how much I want it for you. I mean, it's the old way and the new way. There's a huge big question about that stuff, and I mean, I saw friends, have super amount of concussions, lose teeth, just because they're doing, they're trying to prove to their coaches that they're manly enough to go helmet to helmet and do this stupid drill that isn't even real life when it comes to the game. So, I mean, I do understand the changes of these, the way that you teach the kids, and I understand the rule. I just want it to be more consistent.
Yeah, I totally agree. At Tim Abbott 44 with any officiating on any call, by the way. It's just none of it, like the PI stuff. I mean, it's a whole nother, this is a whole nother podcast, but the PI stuff, it's the same thing. At Tim Abbott 44, just less, it's not as dangerous. Went exactly how it should when you have your shit together. Really optimistic that this could be a 7 to 8 win team this year, but also know they could finish 5-7 or 6-6, and it wouldn't be shocking. So I understand that sentiment.
I've said that.
What's that?
I've said that too.
I understand the sentiment. I had the preseason pick of 7-5, and I see a path to 7-5. Although it's different than my original path, I still see a path. And like he said, 8. I could see 8, but I could also see coming into the Boston College game where if we don't win that game, we're not going to go to a bowl, right? So it's tough. This slate of games coming up is absolutely freaking brutal. And you got to think about the NC State, Clemson, Notre Dame game. What kind of injuries are sustained? Do we get out of those 3 games without losing anybody that's any more starters or any more integral parts of the offense or defense? And that's going to be what I think that's my biggest fear coming into the next 3 games, because you got Pitt, Florida State, Wake, and Boston College to finish out the year. And if we're just going to keep losing players, man, it's just going to get worse and worse. And it could end up like Tim's fear. That's a totally legitimate concern.
Well, and that's kind of the bugaboo when it comes November, is usually that's what happens.
Right. So our first November game is against Pitt. Isn't that ironic?
I mean, well, what's ironic is that Kenny Pickett actually just replaced Mitch Trubisky in the NFL game at Pittsburgh.
Took long enough.
Yeah, I know. Pittsburgh fans have been going crazy. Golly. It was like, man, I said, dude, I didn't know he was doing that bad. There's only 32 NFL teams, and Mitch Trubisky's ranked 33rd in the NFL quarterbacks. So
should have put Kenny Pickett in 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but either way, yeah, I mean that's normally what happens. I mean, when you get when you recruit in a situation where you're normally in the 50s or 60s in your recruiting class, and it just stands to just be that you are not going to be as deep as other teams, and the gap between your starters or maybe even second string and the people below is just that much bigger. So I feel like that is what happens when it comes towards November. And we go through, and in October we play these tough games, and we compete. The Wake Forests and the Clemsons of last year, we compete. But with that comes, collateral damage, and it comes in the injuries in a situation where now, even though we competed against these better teams, we're playing against these other teams, and now we don't have that type of depth. So that's been the November bug. And honestly, I mean, it's the same fear that I have, a huge fear, because the chance of us going through those type of games, those 3 games, and not having some type of significant injury is slim to none.
I know. That's what's scary about it.
And who is it going to be? And that's the thing, is you just never know. And then when you sit there and you play with fire, and it just sucks because we're in a situation where, again, there's a lot of a lot of comments on Facebook and probably Twitter of the same thing, where, you have, Nadal, just like winning close games makes you a good team, putting Wagner away without any hiccups speaks volumes. And even our buddy Brandon Buskey, it wasn't that Wagner is that good or is that bad. I think that we are actually really, really good. So, I mean, there's a situation where there's a lot of fans that see the talent on this team and think that we're special, but those type of things along the line of the season kind of ruin that. And, I guess the fear is it going to happen again?
Well,
but
Wagner is terrible, by the way.
They're just super bad. Yeah. So
we're good. We are good. They are terrible. Both of those things are true.
He said we are really, really good, and it wasn't that Wagner is that bad. No, Wagner was that bad, and I wouldn't say we're really, really good. We're probably just good, but still,
I think we're really good. I think
we're
we're
really good compared to what we normally are, I guess, considering, right? But when you look at it, it's 100% right. You see these next 6 games, and considering what may happen or what could happen or things that have happened in the past. I mean, how many times have we actually gone through a full season with our starting quarterback being the starting quarterback every single game? I mean, when you just look at,
and how awesome is he been this year? Honestly, like,
he's been awesome,
been 100%. Phenomenal.
And that's the whole thing too. Is this 5-0 for the first time since 1987? The fact that nobody thought we were going to be 5-0. Nobody, as far as fans go. I mean, I think we're some of the more optimistic fans.
I had him at 4-1.
I mean, there you go. Yeah. I didn't even have him at 4-1. I don't think, but I thought that if we beat Louisville, we had a chance to go 4-1. But 5-0 was never really. It was like let's get to the Purdue game, right?
Right. So, Purdue was the hinge pin of that whole either 4-1 or 5-0, in my opinion. Yeah.
So again, being 5-0, like, that's great. But then you look at the next 6, and the next 6 are better than any of the teams you played, minus maybe Purdue. They went out and they beat an undefeated Minnesota team yesterday, and Aiden O'Connell is playing through pain. He's been injured since our game. He missed the game in between when we played them. The week we played Virginia, he didn't play. So he got injured during our game, and he was questionable game time decision going into yesterday. He played. Purdue beat Minnesota, so that's a good win for them, and a little bit to show us that Purdue wasn't a slouch.
Yeah, you could tell they're no slouch, man. They're just a little bit one-dimensional. That's all. But that one dimension is huge.
Super good.
Yeah, exactly. At Michelle A. Milou. I've watched football my entire life and covered it for 15 years, and this is only the second time I've seen a shortened game, running clock, or shortened quarters. I don't know what TBS is, but normally you have to be scheduled, is what I thought it was. Normally you have to have your starters play in the second half. Normally you have your starters play 1 second half series, which is what we talked about. They shouldn't have today. Absolutely. So, yes. By the way, Dominic did mention something about a running clock in the preview show when he came through the Spotify live green room, and to his credit, I think obviously saw the writing on the wall there. At SSN Syracuse, Sideline Sports Network Syracuse, complete domination, really questionable to keep the starters out there as long as for that long. Could almost be disastrous. Quick Sideline Syracuse story. So over the off season, I was approached about taking over the Sideline Syracuse Twitter page. And I said, okay, well, fine. I'll try it out, whatever. I'm so bad at Twitter that they didn't even tell me that I was fired. I just was scrolling on Twitter one day and I saw someone was tweeting from that account, and I'm like, and I went to check my accounts. And you go to Twitter and you can switch through your accounts or whatever, right? And sure enough, I no longer had access. So that's fine. I get it. I was bad at it. It's okay. I got over it pretty quick. But I would fire myself from our own account if I could. If someone else could take it over, I'd probably do it. But I thought that was funny. I never mentioned it. At Garrett 96245210. I guess there's that many at Garretts. 962-452-10. Does LaQuint Allen have the longest run in Syracuse history without scoring? We went over that. That's why I looked it up. Thank you, Garrett. Yes, he does. 90 yards without scoring is a school record. At Jack and Angie 13, just those darn penalties got to get straightened out before before NC State rolls in. Yeah, look, you're not going to win any more of these games like that. I just don't see it. And to not be poised enough against a Wagner is a little concerning. So if I was to be like real critical about it, I mean, that's something that really, really bothers me, is because you look at just look at all of the rest of the games, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I more or less looked at the other day as just getting some stuff out, working on your basic stuff. I mean, it didn't seem like it was that difficult for Tucker and those guys. Obviously, you want to deal with penalties, but anything, it's hard to clean up in the middle of a game week. I'm more or less looking towards NC State and this whole bye week as far as, this is where you make the changes. This is where people get healthy. This is where you can, sprinkle in different things on offense and in defense and no one's seen on tape. And this is actually where you can, make changes in your starting lineup if you think that it's necessary. So it just stinks because you talk about, okay, these penalties, got to clean up these penalties. And these people are like, Vettorello and Bleich are just like, false starts waiting to happen and this, and that. And then you watch and false start on Chris Bleich. Oh, false start on Carlos Vettorello. And you're playing Wagner. So it's like,
that's too much.
It's frustrating. And again, it's going to happen. I understand it's going to happen. But, 8 for 75 against that team, it's tough.
Yeah. Then, that's just to put it into perspective.
Not a crap you don't need to do.
Exactly. All right, let's see here.
We had more penalty yards than they had offensive yards.
That's a great point. And also wild. I don't know whether to be proud of that for
I don't know. I mean, I took a screenshot of the team stats, and I was like, it's because my buddy was like 59-0, like this, and that, and I was like, dude, that's not the half of it. And I screenshotted the damn team stats and sent them to him, and he's like, oh my god, it's like 50 yards. I said, yeah, and we only played 10-minute quarters in the second half. And he just gave me like these, like the big old eyes, and I was like, yeah, like it was that bad. Like, I mean, it's just one of those things where, they might be the worst team. Like, I don't know how many D1AA schools there are overall, and I know that we're in like the 130s or 40s as far as Division I, but they might be the worst team in Division I AA. Like, we just, like, again, I'll go back to Brent Axe. We should not be playing a team like that. There's plenty of D1AA.
It's easy to say now.
There are plenty of D1AA schools that will give us a better
run
challenge than that.
Yes, and we should be looking for a challenge, and I totally agree. But we don't know what. I don't even know how that works, Joe. Do they approach us? We approach them. They're a New York team. We're a New York team. It's one of those things. It's just, you know what I mean?
There's so many other ones, though.
I totally agree. But who makes that decision is my question.
Colgate,
that's what I'm saying.
Albany. I don't know who makes that decision.
Well, that's what it comes down to.
All I know is that Wagner got paid a full game, and they still owe us 10 minutes.
Yeah, they do. We should put him in the freaking octagon. That's what we should do. If not now, when 84, dang, I thought Wagner would at least get a field goal, but they never even got close. Could have had our second and third string in there and won this easily. Clean up the penalties would be my only criticism. On to the pack. Go Cuse. Yeah, that's everybody's criticism, I guess. And, we'll see. Like Coach said, got some things to clean up, got some owies that need to heal, all that good stuff. And, just really happy to be 5-0 right now and just enjoy it because it's going to get tough. And I really hope that we can get a couple things. I really hope we can get people in the Dome. Look, we got the next two games in the Dome are going to be huge. NC State and Notre Dame. And I really hope we can get people in there for the NC State game because just in all fairness, to give all the credit to both of these teams, but I feel like NC State's a team that we need to pack the dome for, because the 12th man atmosphere, I think, is going to be needed, because I think they are as good as you think they are. And despite the loss yesterday, and despite where they sit in the standings, which isn't even a fair assessment at this point because of their one conference game. So it's got to be huge, and I hope people turn out. And I think they will for NC State, but the question is, what happens at NC State, what happens at Clemson, and then coming into the Notre Dame at Syracuse game,
right,
is the question. So.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame should be a no-brainer. They never come to the Dome. It's Notre Dame. They travel well. There's a lot of Notre Dame fans. That should probably be our highest attendance of the season. It's probably. But if we lose to NC State and Clemson, then people have a reason not to go. Now, when you talk about, when it comes to Syracuse University, there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of kids that go there, right? It's not like one of these these schools that have hundreds of thousands of students, right? Like, it's just not
right.
that.
Yeah, because when you look at the SEC schools, and you look throughout Clemson, even Florida State, when you look at all of these, Virginia Tech, I mean, they have so many students show out for these games.
Yeah,
and it is just, that's the difference maker. And we've got the local yokels. And I grew up with some local yokels. My parents are local yokels. They like to local it down at the bar. They don't like to fight the crowds, curmudgeons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is like a football game, and when you're at a school, like, that's part of what it is, right? So, yeah, I mean, what do we have? 22,000 kids that go to this university. Mm-hmm. 6,200 going is pretty good.
It's pretty good. That's over 25%. Or right around
38.5. I bet you a lot of fans or a lot of kids are going to those games, right? So, and then when you really look at it too, I mean, you get some people that get upset. Oh, if you're going to talk negative, then don't. We're not like, I think people take it too personal. Obviously, if you're a fan out of state, we're the same way. Obviously, we aren't going to be able to make it to the games every single time. But I know that when I did live in Syracuse, I went to every game as long as I could, obviously get there, afford it, and all that other stuff, right? There was very rarely a wedding here or there that I didn't make it. And I do understand the climate of inflation and your money and everything like that. So we're not on here like bagging fans that like don't have the means.
Absolutely not.
Like,
I hope that doesn't get confused, which is why.
And that's the whole point. Like, it's not like we're sitting here saying, don't go grocery shopping, go to the Syracuse game, right? Like, we're not, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But my whole point is that at the end of the day, when you look at Onondaga County and the surrounding counties of Cayuga, Oswego, Cortland, Madison, and I'm going to count Oneida because that's pretty damn close, and everyone drives there to get cigarettes.
Close enough, right? Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you have
everyone
those
drives
five
there to get cigarettes. That's true.
They go to cigarettes and Turning Stone.
I
right?
know. Yeah.
So you can do that.
That's my mom.
But
my mom drives to the reservation for cigarettes.
But I'm saying you have Onondaga County and the 5 surrounding counties with close to 1 million people. And I just think that it's absurd that you can't get 40,000 people when you're talking about less than a 30, 40-minute drive. I mean, I drive 40 minutes to work every day and back. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm talking about. It's not a specific person. It's not like I'm sitting here shaming people into not paying their light bills to go to the Syracuse game, right? Like, that's not what it is. It's a situation where we have this many people around 40,000. I mean, I don't think it's that difficult to ask.
Coach is all but begging for it. He's made numerous comments about it. Numerous
comments. We have some of the cheapest tickets in the country.
How do you get kids excited to come play at this school? With the atmosphere the way it is, from the people that show up, do a freaking awesome job. And it's loud as hell.
Absolutely. Yep. And this isn't us banging on the fans that show up either.
Absolutely not.
We understand that you can be a fan from your living room. We get that.
We do that.
I've lost my voice in my living room.
Right, exactly. Yes, mostly during basketball games, but yes.
Football's longer. It's a longer game.
Yeah, you gotta pace yourself for a football game. But there were days back, even before the recent podcast era for us, that there was a lot of screaming going on. I've since doing that. I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm older or what, but the podcast has calmed me down. I look at things a little bit different because I feel like I need to be more objective instead of just that angry fan, which I was the angry fan, guys. I was the angry fan.
No, you were, and you were the same. Yeah, you would have been, back then, you would have been the guy that wasn't going to go to the game. That's just what it is. But, I mean, again, that's my whole point, is I'm not trying to shame anybody. And even like what you said, you almost brought it off as like a question. Like, why can't we get 40? Why can't we get 40? I mean, let's just put it into perspective. You take those million people, all right? They're 900, and what is it?
900 and whatever thousand.
990, however many, or 50,000 or whatever it is. 950,000, 960,000. We're all in the same boat that we can't go to the game. We all got kids that play high school on Friday night, or we're all going to the fair at the same time, or apple picking. Like, it's just a question. It's not shaming individuals. It's not shaming it. If you're somebody who lives in Central New York and you feel attacked when we talk about this stuff, it's probably because you know you should be going to the game. But at the end of the day, we're not shaming people to spend money they don't have to do this, or if they have obviously something going on, obviously a pre-existing thing on their schedule that they can't do. I get it. Your kid's in varsity. I get it. Like, I'm not asking you to skip your kid's varsity game to go watch Syracuse. But overall, you have enough people to where all this stuff shouldn't matter. We still should be able to fill it. And I think sometimes, I think some people think that we're shaming people. And there's been a lot of big questions, especially since being 5-0, about the attendance and everything. And I think we're just asking the same question. I mean, we're bringing up facts. We know stuff is going on. But, I mean, we see how many people live around the surrounding areas. They talk about, unless they start winning and everything, we're not going to go see.
Well, there's always an excuse.
That's my whole point, is there always an excuse. And now it's just seemingly is that there's really not an excuse for that type of close population to not be able to put at least 40 to 45,000 people in that stadium and make it a little bit easier for them to win some games.
By the way, it's not true. I would go to games even when they sucked. I've done it. Okay. I feel like I need to clear my name now. Joe just threw me under the bus for that. Okay. but especially when my wife was getting like $5-10 student tickets and, the back in the, what was that? 90, 98, 99. Yeah.
I just remember how much you knew about the football team when we started the football podcast. So that's kind of what I was going off of.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, I watched it. I just didn't live it. Fair? Okay?
Fair.
I live it now. It's because you go through, look.
I'm proud of you.
It was something I lived. Thanks, Joe. It was something I lived in high school in the Donovan McNabb era and shortly after. And then you just get, look, they stunk. They stunk for 20 years.
They did. And I get it. But like I said, that's what I said. Remember when we started this and you were like, man, I don't know. You only knew like 3 or 4 players. You didn't know. Now I was like, dude, once you start following it, once we start getting into it, you're going to pick it right up. And guess what? For the last however many years, all the players on the team, you know the names. I mean,
what is this year? Is this our
6th?
Is it our 6th?
6th or 7th. I want to say that we've covered every year that Babers has been here, but I'm not sure.
I'll have to look into that. Anyway, it's been a long time, and we're happy to do it. I love doing this, and I look for filler during the bye week, and maybe we'll do something, but I'm not promising anything because it's going to be a grind from here on out because it's looking like bowl bound to me, statistically speaking, at this point. So we're going to have the overlap and pace ourselves, and then it's going to be hitting the road running up until NCAA tournament time. And it's a grind doing the podcast. It is. I've got everything that I need to do down to a science, and it doesn't take me as much time as it used to, but it's the schedule is a grind. And
that's what it is.
It gets to be, I don't want to say it's difficult because I love doing it, but it does consume. It's
difficult finding time.
Yes. It consumes your, when can you do it? And plus it's two dudes that have both been doing this podcast for 6-7 years. And, to be able to coordinate all of these shows, this is our 383rd show or something like that. I mean, we're approaching 400 freaking shows. It's wild. So to be able to stick together this long and do this and also still have the motivation, I feel like I get more motivated every year. I get more motivated to do it. And it's just a blast. So
it is. So you get more motivated to do it, and I feel like we're working out kinks to try to make it as best as we possibly can.
It's fun to see
working our full-time jobs while dealing with 6 children total that are getting older that have all these extracurriculars and all that stuff, while still trying to obviously keep the preview and the post game of the overlapping sports. It's hectic. 100% hectic.
It's hectic.
But,
it's a good way to put it.
I love it.
I love it too. And also, the show has grown tremendously. And I'll tell you what, a lot of that has to do with word of mouth. And I appreciate all of you who have been with us for a long time. I know Anthony and Dom and Zach, and I could name Michael. I could name 100 names, especially the guys that are in the green room all the time, Matt and all those guys. And that's huge. But what's also huge is when the teams are winning because people seek this kind of content, and we kind of do it different. I feel like we do it different than everybody else. Plus, it's consistent. You know when it's going to be here. So that's to our good. You know when it's going to be here. Football's been Sundays and Tuesdays. This is the 3rd or 4th year we've done Sundays and Tuesdays. To keep it consistent, that's huge. So anyways, all right, I digress. That, I think, is going to do it for us. And no, I know that's going to do it for us. Dom, getting in late. All right, hold on. Hold the phone. Okay, Dom. Let him on. He comes in as everything is wrapping up. The timing's impeccable. What do you got, buddy?
Love you guys.
Love you too, man.
That's it. I fell asleep on the couch watching Star Wars with my 8-year-old.
That's a killer Sunday right there.
Yes. You probably went through this. I have never in my life seen anything like what I heard 10-minute quarters. Like my music pastor is a Georgia fan, tons of NC State fans at my church, ECU fans. And one Mississippi State fan, and I'm asking them all, have they ever seen it? And the only time I think my music pastor said maybe one time they played like Furman, maybe that had happened. But dude, I've never, and I'm not even hearing anything about it. When like I'm watching like SportsCenter or anything, like they haven't even talked about it. To me, that's the most amazing thing of it. So
yeah, it's a bit weird. Makes you wonder.
And I said it like as a tongue-in-cheek joke on the Wagner preview show, and when I heard it happen, I'm like, holy crap! I can't even believe that's actually allowed.
Yeah, and we gave you credit for it earlier in the show, by the way. I brought that up. So
yeah,
we did.
And we spoke about a lot of different other little things that were weird about just how we had 2 running backs that in one play had more offense than Wagner did all game, and
we had more penalty yards than Wagner had yards.
Mismatches I've ever seen in college football.
Yeah. Our offensive line is the only thing I think that will hold us back from having an 8 or 9 win season. If our offensive line was anything like it was in 2018. I think we could. This team is better than that team, except for our offensive line. We have more pros at more positions than that team had, and if we had that offensive line with coaches, son-in-law, and all those guys on it, we could win the ACC, I think, because there's more pros on this team. But that's it's going to hold us back. But we'll see. We'll see. Were you watching any of that Clemson State game last?
Yeah.
And both those defenses scare the hell out of me with their offensive line.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I couldn't believe how good they were.
They're awesome.
Clemson
They're
is
scary. They're scary, like efficient. Both of those defenses.
You see how big that linebacker from NC State is?
Yes.
When number 1 was that Isaiah Moore or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and they're fast, boy. Oh man, they're fast. And
their defensive backs were fast too.
Yeah. So
States.
That was one thing I saw. I liked that they were tinkering with with Tucker and Schrader in there and moving Davis to left guard and bringing Enrique Cruz in and putting him at right tackle. I like to see that. I think some of Tucker's bigger runs, if I remember correctly, I was still working until 8:00 last night. Don't get me started.
Screw that.
Yeah, I know, man. Please. We going through route inspections here and everything. The routes are still so long. One day, if we are ever able to talk into the minutia of what morons decide how to deliver mail and bureaucracy in the federal government, it'll make you want to drink after.
Don't get me started.
Hey, if you think that any form of the government is run well, man, it's
we know it's not.
Run by the government.
We know it's not. They can't even take care of veterans through their healthcare system.
No, please, no. But I think that line was the best rushing line of the night. If I'm sure. So I think putting the thinner, faster right tackle to get those edge rushers, and then Dakota, who can actually get some push up the middle, because Vettorello is I don't know why I can't stand the guy, but it's like 2 or 3 penalties every game, dude. You're the center.
Yeah.
You're the center.
The center. I know. It's discouraging for sure.
Yes.
Joe hit on that earlier.
Yeah, it's super.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep.
You're good. Dom, we appreciate you, buddy.
Yep.
All right, man.
Enjoy your Sunday. We will speak on the NC State preview. I got a funny story about somebody on my route. Their son is a freshman 4-star running back at NC State. I may have talked to you guys about it, but he had awesome things because his son was also recruited by Virginia. And I was going to bring it up on the NC State preview because, his name is Michael Allen. He's a 4-star running back for State. He's a freshman this year. Played baseball with my son. He was actually better at baseball, but he's just I don't even think he's 6 foot. So that's why he's not playing college baseball. But anyway, great story about his dad telling me what Michael's relationship was with Coach Anai and how so I have that for you in the NC State preview. But you guys have a great Sunday. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Absolutely, bud.
Thanks,
Thank
Dom.
you.
Bye. Yeah. So look, now this is for real this time. That is going to do it for us. Happy to get anybody on who requests to speak, even though it be a little late. That's fine. Totally happy with that. Andre Sisco with the pick 6 this afternoon for Jacksonville, by the way, getting the spotlight. Pretty cool to see.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, pretty cool to see. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out. See you next time.
Peace.